unique New York. Scotch. Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're listening to. It's Wilson, your spiritual hype man, and I'm super excited to continue this journey. I want to take a quick second to say thank you to everybody who is listening and everybody out there that has reached out or made a comment, and it's really, it feels really good and inspires me to keep crushing it and gives me some positive reinforcement in terms of what we're doing here. So thank you again for those comments, and I appreciate that. In this episode, I want to talk about a couple things that have happened, and I'll continue talking about them in the next episodes. It's just kind of like a step by step. The first story I want to share with you, it happened a couple of days ago. It happened recently, and I think the overall picture here is the ego. Talking about the ego that we have. All right, understanding what the ego is, and then also understanding that just like our thoughts, I think the ego and our thoughts are very much connected, right? In terms of who we think we are, what we deserve to have, and don't get me wrong. Obviously, I feel like everyone has their own thing to look forward to, and you deserve everything that you want. I just feel like the key is the separation between, like when you're a little kid, like falling on the ground, screaming and crying because you didn't get it, versus understanding that this is something that, you want to get, you're going to get, and you just have to work hard at, and I don't want to say hard, like you can work hard at it. You just have to be persistent and continue and just be committed to whatever you're trying to achieve or whatever you're trying to get. So that's what, and sometimes I feel like the ego gets, like, when we talk about the ego, I think it's the perception of the self that sometimes gets in the way, that's saying, well, we should have already had this now. I should have already been here. I should have already done this. But, in reality, maybe that's the issue, right? It's like we're using this time to think about these things, or feeling bad or sorry for ourselves, and or feeling like we deserve this, and yet we still haven't achieved it. So really, I would say the concept here is to really think about, where does that person sometimes creep in, right? And I would say the next thing to that is, at the end of the day, and I'm gonna show you my aha moments, and then I'm gonna go through the story. So I think the aha moment, there's a couple things. One, it's checking the ego, like understanding that it's there, like being able to see it. Okay, and then two, it was like understanding that even though, yes, you may or you should have some sort of credit in terms of something that you're doing for others or you're doing for a certain situation, sometimes people don't see it, or they don't know that that's happening. So it'd be very hard for them to give you that credit, right? So whether it's at work or whether it's in a situation, obviously it's in any situation, because again, remember, life is just an accumulation of situations and decisions made over time. And it's decisions we make that bring us to these outcomes. And if we're not happy with them, then it's for us to look back and figure out what's driving those decisions. Remember, influence equals thoughts. Thoughts create emotions. Emotions drive actions, which are our decisions in each situation, and then create an outcome, another situation. So in this example, I'm going to take you through it, and then there's plenty of things that'll pop into my head in terms of what I was feeling at the time, and then what I learned later on. Like last night, I was trying to actually record a podcast about it, but I think because it was so new and so fresh, I needed some time to the podcast recording it, which I think is also a big thing. Is it gives me the opportunity to share with people, and it also gives me the opportunity to have these thoughts out loud. So, another good thing I would say is, if you ever have these certain situations when you feel frustrated, or you feel like you're, at your end's wits, or however they want to say it, or you're ready to like break something, right? Like the thought would be, hey, take some time, maybe even voice it out, write it out, journal it. I journaled for a little bit. I journaled for a good, almost like a year. And that definitely helped, right? So I feel like for everyone, there's an outlet, or there's something that you can do that you can take some time, maybe go over the situation and look back at it. It's like looking back at your playbook, or looking back at the play, which is really, the actions within that situation, if you want to think of it like in terms of a sports term. But looking back at the play and figuring out, okay, like what was the situation? Where was the ego? This captain of mine, and then what did we decide to do based on the circumstances, and obviously the emotional levels play a fucking huge role. So I just want to say that it's the emotional level that plays a huge role in, obviously, in how we decide to do things. Right. And so right. It just comes back to it, guys. I don't know how many times I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it probably in every episode, but I really think it's so simple. And I think it's the most important way, or I would say it's the most important thing, that if you can conceive it and then apply it somehow, that's really going to change how you make decisions moving forward. But really, it's just, what is the influence? What are the thoughts in my head in this situation? What's the emotion that's coming from it, or emotions in this situation? And then, okay, what do I decide to do about it in this moment in the situation that I have to make a decision that then leads me to the next situation? So this is what happened. I'm part of BNI. Obviously, some of you, or most of you, if you already listened to the other, it's just a business networking group where we get together. There's about 56 people in the room now. It's growing. It's pretty awesome. If you're a business owner or an entrepreneur or something like that, I would highly recommend you checking them out. It's a great group, and it obviously comes down to the people in it, and these people are really, really awesome. Most of them. No, I'm just kidding. This is something that I'll talk about in a little bit, which I think when you get a group of people, whether it's at work, family members, business, doesn't matter, but once it starts getting bigger and bigger and bigger, there's always going to be micro groups within that macro group, right? And those, you're going to have shared values and shared beliefs with certain people in terms of how your influences. Really, it's what it is. It's like you're going to be influencing each other in terms of, whatever, what you like to eat, how you do business, like fill in the blank in terms of these commonalities that, like, we then get into these micro groups of, like, yeah, these are our people, these are our homies internally, right? Like, you can, back to sports group, it's like, we're Giants fans, we're Jet fans, Jaguar fans, Buccaneer fans, etc. Fill in the blank, fill in your favorite. So it's like we're in this giant group of the of the U.S. or the world, and then there's certain fans or certain things, red versus blue. Which, again, I think it's like, stick to the sports stuff, keep that a little more, versus the other stuff. But again, I digress because I don't really like talking about that stuff. So that being said, there's always going to be, it's almost like high school too. Like, I feel like in any giant group like that, high school, grade school, it's the same thing. Fill in, like, the name of it doesn't matter, but it's really the same thing. It's a bunch of individuals, us humans, these little micro ants, if you want to look at it at a macro sense. We're just these humans that get together, and based on certain experiences and situations that we have with each other, we just get into these inner circles within, like, another big circle. So you're going to have differences. You're going to have difference of opinion, difference of of how people react or act, and things like that. Levels of consciousness, levels of awareness. Not only in terms of business, if in this case, but also, like, in terms of, like, just level of mindset and understanding and awareness of, how to deal with certain situations and maybe even other people. So that was something that came to light yesterday, and it's okay, right? Like, I felt like, even going back to high school, like, I was very open and friendly with everybody, with most people. Obviously, there were certain people that I wanted to hang out with, or I hung out with more versus not, but still, like, I think the one thing that I've always had is the level of perspective, and then which gave me the level of respect to understand that, like, at the end of the day, everybody's human. Even if they may not be your favorite person to go hang out with and do something, they're in their own situation, and they're working towards that, or they're working towards their journey, or they're working towards getting there. So, and I guess that you can roll that back into the ego, right? It's like, for me, it's like, I don't, I didn't realize it in yesterday's situation, then that's what it was. And I feel like we can now take that accumulation of, like, influence thoughts, emotions, actions in that particular situation, and really call it the ego, right? So like when we think we deserve something, or we think we should be, getting something or something like that, I feel like that's really just like our mental accumulation of ego that just wants to, I don't know, define or identify the fact that we should be getting something, right? And I think for the most part, it's like, whether you do or you don't, and we think we deserve it, we don't. I think it's, at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. This is the other aha moment I got yesterday. All right, so let me share with you. Let me share with you the situation. Part of the BNI group, Business Networking International. Every 2 members for each get 5 minutes to present every day. And yesterday, and we usually have a projector, and usually people have PowerPoint presentations or videos, etc. Most likely videos, because you can do a lot in 5 minutes. You can tell a whole story in 5 minutes. If you have a video, and that's something that that's something that we enjoy doing. So, unfortunately, the person, shout out to James, who actually has taken responsibility to become the AV person in the group, set up the projector, set up everything that they need. So great job, James. That one's for you. But he wasn't there. He went on vacation, and so it sort of fell on me, right? And I would say because the presenter, Chris, who's a young 19-year-old kid, I don't want to say kid, young adult, who has started his own business, is crushing it, his car detailer, really doing great. Shout out to you, Chris. And then Courtney, who owns a carpet store, a couple locations. Her and her family own a couple carpet stores and flooring, and kitchen cabinetry and tile and stuff like that. Shout out to you guys. It was their moment to present. It was their day to present. And Chris had asked me, "Hey man, do you think you can help me set up?" Or I basically took on that responsibility, right? And at that point, I didn't really see it like that. I just saw it more as like, I'm doing this favor because it's not really the thing that I do anymore. But I'll help out because it's my homie, and I'm going to help out and do these things. So that was the mindset that I went into it, right? Into it in terms of like, I'm going to do this for other people, like, and yeah, sure, it's it's something, I think it's good, but here's the thing. Here's what happened. So when we got there, I had my computer, I had their projector. BNI owns a projector, and that's the one that usually James has with his computer. Unfortunately, with my computer, I get there and the HDMI is not working. Okay, so we're like minutes from starting the meeting. Now, we do have a little bit of time before the presenters because it's like there's a couple of things that happen before then. But now I'm like, shit. Okay, things are not happening as we think they're gonna happen. And the young man Chris has got his first presentation coming up, and I'm like, fuck. Okay, so problem solving. I asked one of the IT, like there's an IT guy in there, and we asked him to see if he can help us out and figure that out. Maybe there's something that we weren't doing. He came over. Nothing was really working. I think what I did do good in this situation was actually make a decision rather quickly, like understanding the fact that, hey, this shit ain't working. I know that I have a projector at home, and it does work with this computer. It's a different cable, so you know what? I'm going to go right now, run my ass home, and pick up this stuff. So while I'm doing that, I come back home. I drive back home quickly. They're back there trying to figure it out. And like now there's mayhem in my head, right? There's like a bunch of thoughts. I'm like, oh my God, this sucks. I can't believe I didn't prepare. I should have prepared a little bit more. Like, I should have double checked it. But we thought it should have just been easy peasy. You plug it in and it plays. Finally get to the projector. I come back to the meeting. And again, mind you, there's like 56 business owners here. Okay. And so I get back to the meeting. I'm like, I get in, I walk in half of someone's commercial, someone's standing up doing their 30-second pitch. So I walk in through that. Apologize, John, but shout out to you. He's another great individual who's been a good person in my life. So I walk in, I test everything on the other side while people are doing their commercials, right? Like, so I'm not even involved in the meeting. I'm just making sure I'm like testing, my projector with my computer and making sure it comes up. So it comes up, it's fine. So luckily I'm like, okay, great. The day has been saved by me, my ego. I'm like, haha, look what I did. I did all this extra work, and I took the liberty to go back home, et cetera. So this is kind of how I'm feeling. So now it's time for the presentation, and we get there, and I set up the projector, I set up the laptop, but the projector's got like a burnt out lamp, so it's starting to burn out, and there's like this like weird burnt circle, on the bottom part of the projector, which is definitely not something we're used to, because we're used to this other, the BNI projector that has a lot of lumens compared to my projector, and then compared to, not having a burnt part of the screen. So it was kind of mayhem trying to show the presentation in the way that we're usually that the group is usually used to, right? Like we're used to like seeing the bright presentation and not having any issues like that. So it just became an issue, I would say. It became an issue while we were presenting, while Chris was presenting and Courtney was presenting. And I knew that, right? Because like Laura, like another member came up with like a microfiber cloth and was like, "Hey, do you want to wipe down the lens?" And I'm like, no, it's pretty much fucked. There's nothing we could do. You know what I mean? So it's like one thing after another. It just like these extra little things of just mental thoughts of like, fuck, man, like I fucked up here. I didn't do something good enough, but people still don't understand that I took the extra effort to go get took the extra effort to at least go get something so it wouldn't have failed completely. So that was the thought that started creeping in, and started like and again, I'll go back to the ego. I think here's where the ego really stepped in, and it was just like, hey man, like they don't know what you did. They don't know the extra work you did, to go drive your car back home and grab everything and be in a rush and then make sure that the presentations were on your phone. And this is something I don't usually do anyway, right? So that was going through my brain while presenting, and everyone was sort of reinforcing the fact that they couldn't really see clear, And so it was just kind of like hammering away, and it was like 5 minutes each presentation. So it was like a total of 10 minutes, and that's before all of this, like total of 10 minutes of actual presentation that like, I'm like trying to do this and then thinking like, fuck, this sucks. And then also thinking like, man, nobody knows. You know what I mean? Y'all should be happy that I fucking did this, or else you wouldn't have a presentation. You know what I mean? And that's how I felt initially. Here were my aha moments. So yesterday, like I said before, like, it got me upset. It got me upset, and it caused me to react in certain situations, which I think I'll save for another, maybe another episode. I'll just touch base on it later. But, after the meeting, I reacted a couple of times. Not as bad as like the golf incident, but I think I reacted to a certain extent because I was already feeling like people don't fucking know. They don't fucking know what I did, At least you got something. At least you got something, and you didn't get nothing, right? It's kind of the thought. So at the end of the meeting, typically at the end you can talk about your referrals and testimonials. So I have a referral for somebody, I have a testimonial for somebody, and so I was feeling a certain way, and I just wanted people to know like, hey, I fucking did extra work here for you guys, so that way you can at least see the presentation. And I was thinking of a way to like say it in that manner because I felt like I was being offended, but I didn't. Right in that second, I actually used what I'm talking about, what we're preaching and what we're saying. Is I figured out, it's like, okay, if I do this, what is the outcome, and how are people going to perceive that, and how are people going to feel? So instead of doing what I thought I wanted to do at that instant, I asked, well, how do I turn this around and make it more of a positive? And so I turned it around back on the presenters, because even though, obviously it could have been a lot better in terms of visual sense and, visceral sense when it comes to showing the videos and the presentation, I think the presenters still did a very good job, working through what we had to work through, and then presenting what they do in a way that everybody got, and everybody was still very informed and still very in tuned with what they were doing. They weren't on their phones or doing anything else. They were actually listening. So that's what I did. I gave them the testimonial. I said, hey, even after, I read some quote. I looked up about adversity. I was like, even through adversity, you can really see what the character of an individual is through adversity. And I want to congratulate these guys, because even though we couldn't see shit because of the fucking projector, we were able to, they were able to come and do a very good presentation. And that was it. So, like, people enjoyed it, people laughed, and I think they agreed with it. So not only did I call out the folly itself, but I also turned it into a positive. And that's the other thing. It's like, all we do throughout life and all we are is energy. So you can always convert that negative energy into a positive. You just got to figure out how to do that, and be smart enough. And I don't want to say smarter. You have to be conscious enough and be aware, which is probably being smart enough to apply these things in that moment, right? And not let your emotional, tyrant. And I think that's what it is. Your ego, like my ego would be my emotional tyrant in terms of this is what I should have, or fall into the ground, give me my candy kind of thing, So just something to think about there is, when can you convert those tyrant ego moments into actually positive moments of, for yourself or maybe for other people, instead of letting that tyrant ego react to something, to something in more of a negative way. All right, this was a little bit longer one. You know what? I want to try to keep them around 15 minutes, but I do have a little bit more to talk about in terms of that. So yesterday, and I think I talked about it earlier on, is just that I wanted to get this out, and I think it's important also when things like this happen to give yourself some time to reflect and then figure out exactly, from a different, less emotional strain, or from a different emotional perspective of, what is the lesson? How should I have felt that way? Is that a good way to feel? And then, should I have decided to act in certain ways? Now, here's the other aha moment, I think, for me, that I got yesterday while I was trying to talk it through. When I took the action in this situation and decided to help Chris and become that person as the AV person to set up the projector, I took responsibility. Now, until yesterday, I didn't really, I guess, acknowledge it using that vocabulary word. And I think vocabulary is another important thing. And if you've listened to some of the past episodes, there's times that I say, fill in the vocabulary word that means the most to you. And I think I realized that yesterday with when I decided to take on the AV, responsibility, I decided to be responsible for that situation. And I think that was the biggest issue was, for me, I think it was more of just, I didn't connect maybe that vocabulary word or what I was doing. I just thought of it as I'm doing the favor versus I'm taking responsibility, right? And so that was a big aha moment for me where I was like, while I was actually, shooting a podcast, because I really was talking about this, but I think I just needed some more time before I talked about it and made, kind of connected the dots and shared it with you. But, having some time to do that and then figuring out, what's your aha moments from the previous situation or the play, I realized that, I was taking responsibility. So, and if it were me in that situation or the presentation was for me, would I have done a little more due diligence to double check the night before, which I've done? So then why not have that due diligence for other people and take on that same level of responsibility for them? If, right, my ego or if what I like is, if I do something like that, people feel like, wow, I'm a good person, because that's why I do it, right? Like that's why internally in my head, I'm saying, this is why I'm doing this. I want to do you this favor because I'm a good person. I want you to know that. But again, I think I could have done a way better job if I understood that I'm actually taking responsibility for this and then seen it as if it were me or anybody else, right? Like equal to me, and done the same due diligence and taken the same responsibility that I would have taken with myself for them. Then I could really step into it and maybe consider myself as like a person that really wants to help and take help in the best way possible versus help in terms of just doing a favor so that way I look good. Ooh, that's crazy, huh? Self-evaluation. And that'll be $225 for the hour. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, so that was the lesson learned. I'd like to thank you guys for keep listening. And again, what I said before is getting this feedback. I've actually put all the videos on the episodes and putting them on YouTube as well. So if you want to see what shirt I have on or anything like that, you can also go and check them out on there or share the YouTube videos as well. And I think it would be a good place if you do listen to this and you have a comment or you want to share something. I think that would be a good platform to share stuff on the YouTube. So if you would like to do that, that'd be awesome. Don't forget to share with anyone that may need it and continue crushing it on your day. Again, if you're not feeling well, if you're not feeling as happy as you can be, just remember it's all about the thoughts in our head. We can shut them off, or just prompt yourself with some questions that'll help you get away from those thoughts and then get you to feeling the way that you want to feel. All right, homies, I appreciate you so much. Have a great day, night, evening. Keep crushing it, and don't forget, nothing changes until you do.